Okay, guys, so I wanted to look at the origin of where measles came from because we're not really looking far back enough to figure out. We're taking stories from the conspiracy world and living like it's true. So you realize that we live in an environment that has so many different animals, biodiversity, pathogens and viruses that are in everything. And animals out there have their own set of pathogens and their own immune system and their own stuff. So, measles didn't just get devised in a lab. It's a reaction to back in the 1700s when people were, of course, not doing juice and they were exposed to cattle or animals or livestock, dogs, cats, monkeys, who knows? Then it mixes, their pathogens mix in and bacteria mix in with the humans. And so guess what? The humans and the animals are passing sicknesses back and forth to each other. I mean, my dog, I can't even, there's my dog. Oops. No, wrong way. Okay. She's very healthy. If she would have been pathogenic and I would have been very unhealthy and pathogenic, we would have been exchanging bacteria and diseases, and then the strains would mutate into who knows what. So if I'm not healthy and she's not healthy, we could create a tinderbox of issues. Okay, but the fact that she's healthy and I'm healthy and we have a strong immune system and a strong body, we're not going to be creating disease, different strains of different diseases. So the measles didn't come from a lab. It came from the fact that it was found in humans that have been exposed to livestock and cattle. Okay, you got to realize that even the animals, like let's say you have a cat, and the cats, they have parasites that in a human that is not strong enough to fight off those parasites and purge them, and they also have I don't know, other pathogens in the body, and that parasite gets into your body from that cat or from that animal, guess what? Now you have an incubation period of some kind of weird disease that when you do get sick and then you sneeze out, someone else is going to catch it. It's going to mix in with their biochemistry. And guess what? You potentially could have created another type of disease that may end up on the vaccine schedule down the road. Okay? So the measles didn't just materialize out of nowhere. All of these different pathogens don't just materialize. Now, I really, really wanted to sell, which I did. I'm really good at selling. Okay, I know that. And so when I believe something, believe me, I will find all the evidence. And there's always evidence when you're looking for a problem. There's always evidence when you're looking for a problem because it's based upon the perspective and whatever belief system your audience holds. And if you can confirm that belief system in some way, then yeah, you got your audience hook, line, and sinker. So yes, I came from the conspiracy world thinking that, oh yeah, biotech is creating all of this. They're nefarious because they're trying to make money. Because see, you look at business models, but we know that money is a driving force out there. So I'm not to say that the biotech is benevolent. Nobody is benevolent that they make money. Okay, but they haven't received any new information to potentially put them out of business. But now Juice, which only has 1.5 stars on Amazon, which is okay, which is reflective of the current mentality out there. They don't know that we actually can potentially reverse the aging process. We can potentially regenerate cells to where we can live longer than our predecessors. So biotech is going to put out what they know sells, what they know, what you guys want. And so they act on what their investors are looking for. They're looking for return on their investment. Okay, so they're not going to think of something like this, and they're not going to try to induce pain. Jelly juice induces pain. So this is not exactly a selling point, when people are looking to mitigate pain. So, biotech isn't inherently bad. They're just like a biz like anything else that wants to give people a service, fulfill a need. So biotech isn't necessarily created. Now, I'm sure that with all of these vaccines, but this is not like to say that they're creating this. No, this is what humanity has developed because of their head in the sand. So yeah, when you do get a bunch of vaccines, yeah, when you do get exposed to a bunch of people with all of these different types of situations, all these antibodies, yeah, you're gonna get hit. You're gonna have mutations. But what the thing is, it's reversing the mutations and fixing the mutations. So those of you who want to go live off grid, because we have this whole off gridders that are out there like, oh yeah, I want to go live in my own commune. Okay, they're not doing J juice. They don't believe in vaccinations. Okay, got it. They don't believe in Western medicine. Okay, got it. They only believe in all of their natural remedies in the garden, dandelion root, milk thistle, all that bullshit that's going to cause more issues to your body. They're going to go have a bunch of cows in their yard, a bunch of goats, a bunch of chickens, and all of these animals have parasites. And guess what? Those people, since they're not doing J juice or doing other stuff, they're getting exposed to all of these different parasites and bacteria. And then guess what? You will now see I'm sure you will see in some point in the future that you're going to see these off-grid situations have some kind of plague happen to them. Because yes, I mean, yeah, they could play with the cures out there in your garden. They can be like, oh yeah, I'm getting this disease, so I'm gonna go take a bunch of dandelion root and try to knock it out and detox. Well, what's going to happen is that they're all going to then do the same thing, and then the body is going to adapt to that specific thing. And then they're going to try to find another cure in their garden. And guess what? They're acting no different than biotech looking for a cure all the time. But the thing with biotech is they have a bunch of advanced technology to go and test to make sure that people can do these types of things. But these people in an off-grid situation trying to experiment with all of these natural remedies that are out there and giving it to all of their same friends, and they all get on dandelion root when they have this disease that is now plaguing their little community. They're all now immune to the dandelion root. They're immune to the milk thistle. They're immune to the onions or whatever they picked in their garden. And so they're acting no different than biotech. And then guess what? They're going to see more degradation. And this is where the government steps in because they don't want to see another Jonestown. See, when someone says, oh, yeah, well, I don't like censorship and I don't like who's to say what is misinformation and what isn't? Well, hey, look at Jonestown. Look at the purple Nikes cults. Okay. And then Hyundai, I am not agree with you. I have measles vaccine. I am an anti-whack. Oh, Jesus Christ. You know, Hyundai, Pinar, Baco, I don't know who you are, but you haven't been listening to me. And you don't know really where I'm coming from because you haven't been around long enough. And I don't even know who you are. I never heard of you. And I don't care if you're an anti-vax activist. Who is this? Graduated Files. What the hell is that? What? Did Princess Diana woken up? Going to be on chat too. Okay. See, I can't deal with these conspiracy whatever. See, this is what we're dealing with here, you guys. We're dealing with people who have absolutely no clue. Okay? This is what the government deals with. People that have no clue. They need government. They need mommy and daddy. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have somebody that is really, 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 really good at snowing people with the negative elements. Because chili juice has already been substantiated as a probiotic. It's already a lab tested. So when you have a Jonestown type cult situation, the government has to come in and say, hey, we need to stop this off-grid living that's living like a Waco and living like a Jonestown because you're killing people. Okay? Chili juice is not killing anybody. Chili juice is not killing anybody. Now, there's people that will say that they are because anybody can make claims on Facebook. But chili juice is a probiotic. It can't possibly kill you because probiotics do not kill people. Antibiotics do. And so these people who live off-grid that are going to probably have their own little plague that's going to happen because they're going to be playing with all of their elements in the garden, their dandelion root and their milk thistle, and they're going to wonder why they're all now immune and the pain returns and the issues return, and then people are dropping like flies because they can't afford that antibody acquisition. There you go. The government has to step in and say, okay, no more Jonestown type situation here. See, that's what we're heading to. This is why history repeats itself. Okay, so Jonestown, pink Nikes or purple Nikes, Waco, you know, the Branch Davidian and all of that. those people were probably practicing this type of thing. And then you see then some people that will get this glorified, icon status, and they start abusing their population. So when you start seeing people go off grid and living off grid and wanting to have their own little community where they're practicing all of their little pills, powders, and supplements or dandelion root, that's a tinderbox of a potential Jonestown. And yes, the government is going to watch those people because they know people don't know any better. There are people that do not know any better. They believe everything they see on the internet. They don't do enough research. They have a belief system that they're not willing to explore outside of that. And then guess what? It's going to end up being like a Jonestown. So when you're taking on cattle and you're not doing JJs, you're not taking care of the mutations, you're not fixing the mutations, and you're all anti-government, and you want to go and bring on livestock in your vicinity so you can milk and you can drink the raw milk and get all the parasites. You can, you eat all of your organic food, but there's still parasites in your vicinity and you're not taking care of them. But if you are, you're taking care of them with antibiotics. Yeah. This is where the government comes in and says, hey, we got to stop this. We got to censor this because this is killing people. They didn't censor me because I'm not killing anybody. That's the difference. Why would the government side with me? They're not siding with me. I can't advertise in a specific way. I get that. But my juice isn't antibiotic. However, miracle mineral solution and all of these different chelation methods that people are putting out there as far as chelating for mercury, they're antibiotic. Do you know they're using zeolite? They're using zeolite to go and cure someone of autism. You know what zeolite is? It's a heavy metal. It's aluminum. They're using aluminum to chelate aluminum poisoning in people or mercury poisoning in people. This is why the government has to step in because people are not savvy. Hence that one comment. Okay? When you break out, the reason why when you get a vaccine or you get exposed to the pathogen, you're supposed to go into inflammation. You go into inflammation. I mean, my husband told me last night, he's like, oh yeah, I got sick. And I'm like, oh, you need to do, Jason, you need to go and get salt water and gargle if you're not going to do J-juice. He's like, no, I'm going to get sick. I'm going to just build up the antibodies. But now you sustained a mutation, sweetheart. You now have a mutation. Your body is now less than where it was before. Yeah, your body will adapt and you're going to get better relative to his standards where he doesn't have the symptoms, but now you're at a more of a disadvantage. You are now less than as far as your body relative to before you got that inflammation. So you're supposed to get inflammation when you get exposed to a pathogen your body doesn't recognize, but it's repairing the damage from that inflammation is the key with J-juice. It's repairing the damage because you can't help your environment. You can't help people who don't take care of themselves. Those people that go off grid, that are doing all the little pills, powder, supplements, and whatever they're doing, and they're taking on livestock, and they're hanging out with animals and children and people who are reproducing with mutations, guess what? They're pathogenic. They're not going to fix the mutations. They're going to be passing around all these different diseases back and forth to each other. They're going to be the public health crisis because they're probably going to create new diseases in that environment. So, I don't love the fact that I'm finally, I don't know. I miss being an activist. I really do, but I don't miss it. And it now comes from a common sense. Now we have to come from common sense. And some of you have a very hard time with getting away from activism. But you have to understand, for you to build the antibodies, you got to deal with inflammation. Okay? So when you get the vaccine, yeah, if you have some kind of inflammation, that's part of it, yes. If you die, it means that you shouldn't have received that to begin with because your antibody acquisition was way too high. And they should have tested you before. They shouldn't have given you. And that's why some people don't get the vaccine because they're not a candidate for it because they already have too many mutations, too many issues. So the fact that you did get some kind of situation that happened says that you've built antibodies. See, it's not about, vaccines don't stop you from getting sick. It's supposed to build up antibodies, and that inflammation is a symptom in of itself. So it's a sickness in of itself. So them selling you an idea that vaccines are stopping you from getting sick. No, it's where if you are mutated already and you get exposed to this pathogen, that pathogen that may be very strong out there in the population isn't going to take you down with all of your mutations. But that's why people who don't get vaccines, who've been exposed, don't have any major issues. They just get the, that's why the measles parties were, created to begin with, because they don't want to get the vaccine. They want to get natural immunity. But, why? I mean, why, unless you have to go and satisfy government requirements? I don't advocate vaccines. I really don't advocate them. But for people who don't take care of themselves, who don't understand strategic nutrition, who don't understand how their immune system works, they obviously have to have this tweak that the government had to create to keep everybody kind of level. Okay? So really, truly, since we can't control those people in that off-grid, well, they will probably eventually. But if somebody is off-grid and they're creating all this crazy-ass diseases and they're not taking care of themselves and they're taking all these antibiotic bullshit that's in their garden, they're going to be the ones that are going to create the new diseases. And it's not that them being vaccinated. No, they're creating because they're pathogenic. They're mutated. Mutated people who are elderly with a bunch of issues, cancer disease and chronic illness, are the ones that are creating the new diseases that we have to get vaccinations for so we don't decimate the population. So those people in the off-grid, they're trying to be anti-government, like Waco, like Jonestown. They're the ones that are pathogenic. They're the ones that are going to create all these diseases that we have to go then and go get inoculations for. Because you can't legislate morals in our society. You can't. You can't tell the alcoholic to stop drinking. You can't tell this guy to stop doing drugs. You can't tell this guy to stop procuring prostitutes who have all these STDs. You can't tell people to stop that. I mean, prostitution is illegal, but people are going to do it. You can't tell them not to. So what do you got to do? Now the government has to react based upon the fact that they're dealing with so many different people and their belief systems. They can't legislate morals yet again. They can't. So this measles came from cattle. So imagine more people who go off grid, who don't take care of themselves, what kind of diseases they're going to create based upon now how many mutations already present in the population, and they're having children. You see what I'm saying? So really the anti-vaxxers are going to be the more pathogenic. They're the ones now are creating disease. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So I'm like looking at, what I'm going to do when my next book comes out is I'm going to revise my last book and take out that chapter. I may just do that now, just take out that chapter about vaccinations. I may do that. I don't know. We'll see. I'll see how much it costs. I can revise that. I'll revise my last book. I will. Because I did look at that chapter. I'm like, I don't like this. It's just wrong information. So, I mean, I'm a reformed activist. I understand. But yeah, I mean, do the J juice. It's going to supersede everything so that we don't have to worry about where it comes from, who did it. No matter what your belief system is, do the J juice. Because if you're not promoting J juice and you're pushing somebody in a direction they shouldn't be going, because you don't know what they bring to the table. You're not a doctor. You're not testing them on what kind of antibody count, what kind of situations they have to begin with. Titer tests will tell you everything about a person. When you go on a date, go ask for their titer test so you know what you're dealing with. No, seriously. If you want somebody to say that, well, I'm not one causing disease, well, you ask all a pro-vaxxer and an anti-vaxxer, submit a titer test to me. Prove that you're not pathogenic. Prove that, that you're this or that. But then, if somebody is mutated and they do get exposed to a disease, wherever it came from, it all depends on, how sick they are to whether or not they can withstand the exposure. So I don't know. It's just one of those where I wanted to check out and see what these originations of these different diseases. I mean, there's a measles, there's a mumps, rubella. What's the other? What's the origination of what's another disease? What's another for a vaccine? Well, I should look at this. I have a list right here. Hepe. Let's see what the origination of Hepe is. All right. I should just do Google. Hep A origination. Hep A origination. Hepatitis origin. From the West African wool loaf. Hold on. What the hell? Hold on. Oh, Hep A virus spread through contaminated food or water. Well, where does the contamination come from? Oh, history of hepatitis A. Hep A is believed to date all the way back to ancient times. It was described as a disease of the liver that caused the skin to yellow. Death, disease of the liver. Okay. Let's see. What caused the disease of Hep A? So now I'm gonna do Google here. We've got to know the origination so you understand where they come from. So we can get away from blaming biotech for a minute and actually see how this originated. So we understand of how the world works. Okay. So Hep A disease origin. Origin. What contamination in food and water creates Hep A? What is the contaminant of the food and water to create Hep A? Through stool. See, they don't say exactly. So it must be some kind of virus. Yeah. Okay, so it's something of the liver. So it's Hep A. Is Hep A a virus? It's a virus. Okay, there you go. It's a virus. So where did viruses come from? Okay, let's go then and Google where viruses come from. Google. Okay. Where do viruses come from? So here we go. Origin stories. One theory hypothesized that viruses arose from circular DNA, also called a plasmid, that can replicate independently and move between cells, transferring genetic information from one organism to another. And then you go to Google down, where these people also ask, where did viruses come from originally? Okay, here we go. The origin of viruses, the evolutionary history of life are unclear. Some may have evolved from plasmids, piece of DNA that can move between cells, while others may have evolved from bacteria. In evolution, viruses are an important means of horizontal gene transfer, which increases genetic diversity. That's mutations. Okay, that's what genetic diversity is mutations. So it's when somebody doesn't take care of themselves and these bacteria are running roughshod on the body and it's attaching to the DNA, and then you are communicable, so you are contagious, and then guess what? Evolution is mutations. Do you realize that evolution right now is mutations in our society? Okay, so it's based upon people not taking care of themselves. Hey, Kathy. Okay, so we can't legislate morals on people. So someone that goes off grid and they do their own little world, right? And they're not taking care of themselves, and they have animals and they have chickens and they have livestock, and they're passing these bacteria that are replicating and then mutating, and now you have all of these crazy ass diseases. And this is where we are today, is because humanity has stuck their head in the sand and they've created this reasoning for this. They've created the need for this. Biotech is not creating it. They are reacting to it and trying to save us from not dying because of ignorance. And the more mutated that we are for every generation, the more ignorant that people are, the more they have to crack down. So it makes you wonder, yeah, why is it that government is cracking down more? Because people are not very smart nowadays. So there's probably a direct correlation to the reaction of the government and then the general population and then the mutations from reproduction. See, now we're seeing why it is that the New World Order and more government controls are becoming more and more prevalent, because we're dealing with very mutated people. They have to have mommy and daddy. So the more that you're anti-government, the more that you're hating authority, the more you actually need it. And I'm glad they're around, because I don't have to deal with the mutated people out there. I'm glad the government is around, so I don't have to deal with the mutated, totally imbalanced people. I don't want to deal with those people. I'll let the government deal with them. It's what I pay them for. So I pay my taxes for, right? So yeah, so those of you that know people who are trying to go off grid, they're the ones that are going to be reasoning behind this, because they're not going to take care of themselves, and they're going to hang out with livestock, and their diseases that they have already are going to mutate into another, 50 more of these needed vaccines. But don't worry about it. No matter what your belief system is, where these diseases came from and why, do the J juice. Okay? And then if you have to prove that you have a layer of protection, go get a titer test, see where you are, see if that disease or that virus needs to be shown that you have an antibody, and then go get a homeoprophylaxis. You have choices now. The titer test will reflect the current state of pathogens in your environment today. And that will be then what you're going to then base what you may need based upon then the requirements of the government, should that ever come around when they're doing forced vaccinations. Okay? So yeah, Google all of the origins of diseases and see why they were to begin with, and then forget biotech for a minute. Just go look at people back in the ancient times hanging out with animals, hanging out with each other. That's probably why these societies were decimated. Why we don't see the Incas and the Mayans and these populations, because they never had modern medicine to kind of figure out and tweak the immune system to kind of save us from these preventable diseases. And so, back in the 1700s, 1400s, 1600s, 1700s, they started seeing this stuff and doing, so maybe, yeah, we need to give Europe, a little credibility. Forget Operation Paperclip. Forget all of those conspiracy stuff. Forget it. Forget 9/11 too. Forget that. Do the J juice. We've got to change the trajectory of humanity, because really, when you think about it, mutations are then directly correlative to the stupid shit that happens in our society, the extremism in our society. Okay, so if it's not 9/11, it'll be somebody else that doesn't like the government that's going to do stupid stuff because of their views. When you have to die for a cause, you're imbalanced. When grandma doesn't deserve the same respect as a baby when it comes to pro-life, says that you have an imbalance somewhere. So now I'm working harder more than ever to really get the Jilly Juice across, so we don't fall into another 50 more of these. But we know people are going to do whatever they're going to do. They're not going to take care of themselves. You can't legislate that. So now you just got to watch how this all is going to unfold and do the J juice. It's going to make you rise above any situation. It really will. But don't come from the extreme point of view, because then you're on your way to a very extreme imbalance somewhere. Okay, got it. Talk to you later. Bye.